Those are brave men knocking at our door. Let's go kill them!
The stallion's heart is still raw and steaming when it is placed before Daenerys. As part of the ancient Dothraki motherhood ritual, she begins to eat the tough, stringy flesh. The Dothraki believe that the heart of the stallion will make her son strong and swift and fearless. If she chokes on the blood or retches, the omens are less favourable. The child could be weak, deformed, stillborn, or female. In preparation, Daenerys has eaten bowls of blood and dried horseflesh and fasted for a day and a half, yet her stomach roils and jaw aches. Khal Drogo stands over her as she eats, his face hard, but as she continues, Daenerys begins to see pride in his eyes. When she is done, Daenerys pronounces the words she has rehearsed to the Dosh Khaleen, the crones of Vaes Dothrak. Even the most powerful Khals bow to the wisdom and authority of these crones, each of whom is a Khaleesi of a dead Khal. The crones proclaim, "The prince is riding, a boy, a strong boy," and begin to chant. After the crowd finishes chanting, there is silence. Then one of the crones announces the greatness of the new prince, the stallion who mounts the world. Daenerys reveals the name of her son, Rhaego, in honour of her older brother. Khal Drogo leads her out of the pit, with his blood riders behind, followed by the rest, down the God's Way. As they walk, Drogo asks about the name of their son, and Daenerys explains about her brother, a fierce warrior who died before she was born, the last of the dragons. Drogo declares that it is a good name. Eventually, they arrive at a lake called the Womb of the World. Here Daenerys strips out of her soiled clothing and enters the lake. She cleanses her face and her body of the dried blood. When she emerges from the lake, Doria brings her a robe of sand silk, but Drogo waves her away. Daenerys can see his manhood through his trousers and helps him unlace. With 3 quick strokes he is done. They ride down the God's Way to Drogo's tent hall, where there is a great feast prepared for those too low of rank to attend the ceremony. As Dany rides up the aisle, the crowds hail the life within her. When she dismounts, Daenerys cannot find Viserys Targaryen. She sees Ser Jorah Mormont in a place of respect in the midst of hierarchy and invites him to her own table. When Ser Jorah arrives, she asks about Viserys. He explains that her brother went to the market to find wine. Daenerys then questions why he was allowed to go alone, since the usurper would pay well for his head. Ser Jorah assures her that Viserys should be safe, as nobody can carry a blade or shed a man's blood in Vaes Dothrak. Daenerys states that men still die. Some of the merchants have huge eunuchs to strangle thieves bloodlessly. Ser Jorah declares that her brother should be wise enough not to steal anything. The knight goes on to explain that her brother was going to steal her dragon eggs until he threatened to cut off Viserys' hand. Daenerys declares that she would have given Viserys an egg if he had asked. She does owe him for their survival, and he is all that she has left of her family. Jorah tells her that she belongs to the Dothraki now. Daenerys asks Ser Jorah about the stallion who mounts the world. He explains that the stallion is the Khal of Khals, who is prophesied to unite the Dothraki into a single Khalasar and lead them to conquer the world. Doria interrupts Daenerys to point out her brother entering the hall in rags, drunk, and carrying a sword. Angry mutterings rise all around her and the music dies away. Daenerys has a sense of dread and asks Ser Jorah to stop him and bring him to her. Viserys starts screaming for Daenerys and reproaching the indignity of starting the feast before his arrival. Ser Jorah is quickly by his side and tries to stop him, but Viserys jerks free. Then he moves to sit with Drogo and the other Khals. Drogo rises and declares through translation that Viserys' place is not on the high bench, but at the back, where the lowest of the low sit, shrouded in shadow, so that others do not have to look upon them. Viserys declares drunkenly that that is no place for a king, but Drogo emphasises that that is his place, mocking him as the Sorefoot King and the Cart King. Viserys draws his blade, angering the Dothraki. Then he spots Daenerys and stalks over. She begs him to throw away the sword, but Viserys ignores her. Viserys demands his crown, or else he will take Daenerys back, but he will be happy to cut out her child and leave it for Drogo. To emphasise his point, Viserys presses his sword against her belly hard enough to prick her navel through her silks. Jiqui is sobbing in fear, stating that she dare not translate Viserys' words. As if she does, she fears Khal Drogo would drag her behind his horses up the Mother of Mountains. Daenerys agrees to translate instead, and after hearing the translation, Drogo makes a statement in Dothraki and steps down from the high bench with his blood riders. Viserys asks and Daenerys translates, "You shall have a splendid golden crown that men shall tremble to behold." Viserys smiles and declares that that is all he ever wanted. His smile is what saddens Daenerys the most. Drogo orders his blood riders to seize the man who was her brother, breaking his arm and taking away his sword in the process. Drogo puts his belt of golden medallions into an emptied stew pot. Viserys finally realises what is happening and begins to plead and struggle. Ser Jorah tells Daenerys to look away, but she refuses. When the gold is half melted, Drogo declares, "Crown for Cart King," and upends the pot over Viserys' head. Soon it is over. Not a drop of blood is spilled. Daenerys thinks, surprisingly calmly, that Viserys was no dragon, because fire cannot kill a dragon.
I demand a trial by combat.